Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Mr. Wildcat's Married Children Reviews. And I'm Mr. Wildcat, your host for today. Now, in the past, we have done two reviews from Season 7. We're going to take a break from that for now, and we may come back to it down the road. But today, we're going to review a classic episode from Season 8, one of my favorites from that season, called Banking on Marcy. It is the fifth episode out of season 8 with the original broadcast date on October 3rd, 1993. This is a very interesting episode. So we're gonna just dive into it, and I'll give you some notes after I'm done with the review. So in this episode, we have two storylines going on at the same time. The main storyline is Marcy, who has to give a speech at our bank's shareholders meeting. The bank apparently had backed Last Action Hero, an action film parody from 1993 starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I'll talk about that, we might as well talk about it now to get it out of the way. So, Back Action Hero was a 1993 action fantasy film starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and was considered a major failure during its theatrical run. It was a parody of action films where a kid ends up getting sucked into the fictional world featured in the movie. On the surface, the movie took in $137.3 million in a worldwide box office versus an $87 million budget. However, the film clearly bombed as negative publicity overwhelmed the film following a rough showing on May Day 1993. Things did not help matter, given that Universal had also released Jurassic Park shortly after Last Action Hero's premiere. The film lost 47% of its opening weekend audience and lost a declared $26 million. The film was produced by Columbia Pictures, which also produced Married with Children through its television distribution. Okay? So that's basic. So with that in mind, it kind of gives you an idea of what we're talking about in regards to Last Action Hero. Marcy is very scared of talking in front of a large audience, so she doesn't know what to do. She asks for help. Peggy asks Marcy to call this radio talk show host, Dr. Angela, about what to do. And basically, Angela gives her some pretty scary advice. What is one time where you are not afraid to talk? Why in bed? I yell, I scream, I moan. Oh, excuse me. Some of us are planning on having dinner later on. So basically, Dr. Angela encourages Marcy to pretend that she's having sex in bed while she is giving her speech. Big mistake. Right? So we get to the speech. The moderator, who is played by, the moderator is played by, the guy who introduces before getting Marcy on the stage was Bo Billingsley, and we will see him in season 11's Bundy Thanksgiving. Okay, so basically his scene is basically to give us an introduction of the situation as well as to introduce Marcy to the stage. So we still say, don't give up on Last Action Hero just yet. It still hasn't been released in Albania or Zimbabwe. Everything else, however, seems to be fine. Wonderful. Never better. And now, here to deliver the State of the Bank address, Vice President of something or another, Miss Marcy Darcy. Okay? So she starts to talk. She gets very nervous. And then she finds her spot. Okay? When the Federal Reserve looses restrictions, interest rates fall. But when it tightens, interest rates rise. Oh my God. For years, the Fed held back, and interest rates rose and rose and rose. 8%, 10%, 17%, up and up. The then, when the rates rose as high as they possibly could, and the economy could take no more, some of them began pumping in money faster and faster. Oh yes, 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 oh Jefferson, oh Steve, oh Jamal! I hope this news was as good as news for was for me. Good day. So that's what one looks like. Man, you should have seen Jefferson, Peg, and Al are all in the audience, and they are so gross. Jefferson's embarrassed, Peggy is shocked, and Al is horrified. Watching Marcy having an orgasm on stage in front of the entire crowd. Probably not the best one, but pretty close to it. So now Marcy's all embarrassed. She has a paper bag over her head, embarrassed that she is going to lose her job. Don't you understand my pain? I'm a businesswoman. We're not allowed to throw up with a mud skipper. At the very least, it's considered unprofessional. You know this is going to cost me my job. I'm ruined. The bank called. And that didn't really happen. She was given a raise. And they were going to loan her out to deliver bad news to other corporations at $5,000 apiece, so to speak. Marcy, for $5,000, not only would I do it, but I'd do it in the cornfields on Hee-Haw. So let's take a look at some of the famous. So let's scroll down here and take a look at some of the famous headlines that pop up during the montage. They're in the background. There's a song. She works hard for the money. While this is going on, so here's the headlines. The first one: Darcy slashes IBM to slash 36,000 jobs. Workers cheer. This references a real-life event that took place in 1993 as IBM was a money-losing company and the new CEO cut jobs in order to help the bottom line. The next one: Darcy announces closing of all North American military bases, receives a 21-gun salute. It is a reference to the True Life Base Realignment and Closure Commissions put forward by the U.S. government. I was too young in 1993 to understand what was going on, so don't even ask me what the hell that was about. The next one: Venus on a collision course with Earth, says Darcy. Doomed citizens yell, encore. This is not possible, even though Venus gets close to Earth's orbit, but the closest the planets get to each other is about 25 million miles apart, or 41 million kilometers if you are doing the metric system. And last but not least, probably the best of them all, Darcy announces new CBS fall schedule. Audience is still depressed. Now, with this one, okay, CBS was considered third-place network despite landing David Letterman after he lost the Tonight Show job. Now, David Letterman had just started on CBS around the same time, okay? So that really didn't help much out on that. But basically what this means is that back in the early 90s, in 1991, Johnny Carson announced that he was going to retire in May of 1992. So basically the job for The Tonight Show was up for grabs. And everybody was expecting David Letterman to take the job, seeing that he had appeared on the late night show after Carson on NBC, the one which Seth Meyers now hosts. Okay. So he was the favorite, and he was even Johnny Carson's personal pick for the job. But NBC instead decided to go with Jay Leno, who had been a regular guest host for Carson. So see, Carson basically he would not do shows on Monday nights. That was a guest host slot. Okay. And Johnny Carson and Jay Leno was a regular guest host on that particular slot, especially after Joan Rivers got the axe after she went to attempt her own show on Fox. Okay? But in addition to all this, it didn't help either. Major League Baseball, which CBS had rights to for many years, they wound up going to NBC and ABC. And the NFL's NFC package, the following fall in '94, wind up going over to Fox. Okay? In 1993, the NFL TV contracts were up for renewal, and the Fox wanted in on the NFL package. Okay? So NFL basically, okay, they had like the AFC package, which was on NBC. You had the NFC package, which has been on Fox, which has been on CBS since the 1950s, and then you also had Monday Night Football, which was televised by ABC. Fox aggressively wanted that NFC package because more of the larger markets were home to the NFC teams, okay? Or say like more of the larger, okay, the larger, more of the larger markets in the United States, New York, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Dallas, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, Detroit, they were all, they all had NFC teams, okay? Now, okay, San Francisco 49ers, they were the only team in the Bay Area at the time because the Raiders were still playing in LA. LA had both the Rams and the Raiders. New York had both the Giants and the Jets. But you take those out of the equation, you have the Philadelphia Eagles, the Washington Redskins, you had the Detroit Lions, Chicago Bears, the Green Bay Packers, Minnesota Vikings. They were all NFC teams in the larger markets. So that's why Fox aggressively went after the NFC package, and NFC winded up leaving CBS. A few years later, when the TV contracts were up for renewal again, CBS aggressively went after the AFC package. Okay, and NBC basically they didn't put up as big of a fight as they should have, because they realized it wasn't really, like, why put up this amount of money when you're only getting this back? And in the long run, NBC wound up suffering for about 8 years until they were able to get the Sunday Night Football package. Okay? So in addition to that, CBS does have the reputation of being a senior citizen network, okay, or an old people's network, considering the fact that most of their shows are catered to an older audience. The one thing that CBS still had in terms of sports, they still had the Winter Olympics, okay? They still had the rights to the '94 Winter Games in Norway, as well as the '98 Winter Olympics in Nagano, Japan. Unfortunately, after the '98 Winter Games in Japan, they wind up giving up the Winter Games because they basically lost a lot of money. Ratings were not that strong, considering the fact that the Winter Games were being okay. Japan was so far ahead of the U.S., and most of the results were already being announced, and CBS lacked multiple network coverage, which NBC was willing to offer. So, '98 was the last time that a network other than NBC had televised a Winter or Summer Olympics. Okay? So that's basically, okay, so those are the headlines that basically arose up. And then Marcy is also scheduled to deliver another speech to Bud's college. Tuition rates are going up, and Bud is excited because Marcy's going to deliver the speech, and he's going to be so turned on. Al is horrified because Marcy turned him off with that orgasm during that bank speech. Okay? And then eventually, Marcy eventually talked back to Dr. Angela, and Dr. Angela was able to reverse it so that Marcy was no longer able to speak in public. They made a lot of money and they had some good moments. However, all of this experience made Al impotent, as noted in his call to Dr. Angela. My name is Sal Undy, and I'm having trouble with my Enos A. Okay? So there is also, in addition to this, there's a B plot story to this episode, okay, which pretty much appears primarily in the first half of the episode. So in addition to Marcy's speech that she has to give, Al also gets involved in the rap stuff. So like he winds up watching the rap channel, and he gets tied into the rap music while with the volume turned off. Okay. And then one of the best quotes to have come out of this B storyline. Yo, video channel, do you take requests? I like pump rum shaker, gangster booty, and put some more ass on that less. My age? I'm 15. I need parental permission? Just a minute, please. Tell him it's okay. It's okay. He's over 40. Why'd you tell them my real age? They already knew your real age. They want to know your IQ. Now, this particular storyline, basically, one of the criticisms I did have about this in the Married Children podcast team, when they reviewed this, they basically had the same criticism. But this was a huge opportunity missed for Al and Bud to bond together in this particular storyline. Because in season 6, we saw Bud Bundy create this fake rapster character called Grandmaster B. Okay? With the Raiders jacket and everything. Now, basically, of course, Bud Bundy had the Raiders jacket not only because was it affiliate, rap music was affiliated with the Raiders team, but also this episode, the show was also, even though the show was set in Chicago, it was actually filmed in Los Angeles. And the Los Angeles Raiders is what they were called at the time. They were heavily affiliated with the rapster community. So that's why you would see Bud Bundy from Chicago dressed up in LA Raiders gear when he was posing at his Grandmaster B ego. Okay? Despite all of the things that happened in this episode, now despite that particular mishap, I do have to give full credit, okay? I do think very highly of this episode. It is one of the few episodes that are Marcy-centric, and it's the only episode of the entire series to have Marcy's name on there. Marcy really knows how to turn men on. Alright? She is the best. And out of all the fantasies that that Marcy has given on the show, this has got to be one of the best ones of them all. Just watching her get up on that stage and have that orgasm. Oh, Jefferson, oh, Steve, oh, Jamal. First of all, I have to question, who the hell is Jamal? All right, and unfortunately, we never get an answer. But apparently, he must have been somebody that Marcy had dated before meeting Steve. Okay? But despite all these unanswered questions, I am going to give this a 5 out of 5. Alright? It's Marcy at her finest spotlight. And if you had to pick an episode that defined Marcy's character, this would definitely be one of them. And that's why this episode gets a 5 out of 5. I'm Mr. Wildcat signing off. If you have an episode that you would like me to review, drop it off in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the like button and feel free to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on further reviews. Until the next time we meet, I'm Mr. Wildcat, reminding all of you to be good, be careful, and behave. Whoa, Bundy!